In the third of our typing videos, Slide to Type. The final way that you can use the same typing methods as everybody else who is sighted on the iPhone using the on-screen keyboard is something relatively new called Slide to Type. Now, there are some good things and bad things about this method, so we'll talk about those as we go along. Slide to Type, basically, it's quite hard to explain it. The idea is that you draw the shape of the word on the screen with your finger. Not the shape of the word in handwriting terms, but in terms of where the letters are. So let's imagine that we want, again, to write the word hello, okay? We have to know the QWERTY keyboard layout quite well before this works, but we need to be able to write hello. So we start with our finger on the H, which is in the middle row, next to the J and the G. We would then slide our finger up to the E, top row, left-hand side, slide back down to the middle, right-hand side for the L, so middle left, and then up slightly to the O. And drawing that shape on the screen should, in theory, give us the word hello. Let's try another word. Let's try the word lockdown. Why not? So you start on the L, right-hand edge, go slide up slightly to the O, then slide down and all the way left, not quite all the way, but pretty far left for the C, up and back across almost to the edge for the K, back across to the D, back across and up to the O, right the way across to the W, and then down and right to the N, which is in the middle row. So you're drawing shapes of the words as you would type them on your screen, and that is what produces the whole word. So what you end up having here is VoiceOver will give you suggested words as you go along. So if you're writing hello, it would start off possibly with the word he, because you've written the H and the E. It might even give you hell if you end up on the L for too long until you go to the O. I don't know what it'll give you when we try lockdown. We'll give that a go in a minute. And the way this works is you draw the shape of the word. So how did you start? Well, with this mode turned on, and it's enabled, I think, on newer iPhones by default, but you may have to go into your keyboard settings to turn it on. Basically, you have to tell the iPhone that you want to use this mode each and every time you start. And you do that by simply holding your finger on the letter that you want to start with for a preset amount of time. By default, it's 1 second. I've taken mine down to 0.6 seconds, which is just a bit quicker for me to get going. Otherwise, you have to wait at least a second before typing each word. There is an option in VoiceOver settings in the typing section, which we'll have a look at in a second because I can't remember what it's called, but it lets you change the delay by which the system starts. So let's give it a try. I'm going to start off by writing the word hello. So I'm going to find the H. Now, just a word of caution, this doesn't work if you only have standard typing on, because with standard typing on, you can't really hold on the letter unless you double tap and hold. So it's not very efficient with standard typing on. So you need to be using direct touch typing or touch typing for this to work, really. But if you get the hang of it, it can be a good thing. The other downside, which you'll hear in a minute, it's quite chatty. If you're doing this somewhere noisy or public, you might not want to use this method because unless you've got headphones or something on, because VoiceOver is quite verbose because it reads out the suggested words as you go along. So I'm going to find the H. I'm going to keep my finger on the H, and then after holding it on there for just over half a second, I'm going to draw the shape of the word hello and listen to what happens.
Y, H, he,
up,
hello,
cross,
hello.
There we go. That was really quick. So I held my finger on the H, I slid left and up, right and down slightly, and up again, and it gave me hello. Let's try lockdown.
L, low, loud, lock, locks, lockdown, lockdown.
Look at that. It's very hard to describe what I'm doing. I hope I've given you a reasonable summary of that.
And hopefully that's enough for you to play around on your own. So here we've now covered all of the primary ways in which you can use the same type of keyboard as sighted people on your touchscreen. So standard typing, where we will tap each letter. Touch typing, where our lifting of our finger into the letter. Direct touch typing is a method which bypasses VoiceOver pretty much completely, and touching the letter inserts it. And then slide to type is what we've just seen, where we draw our finger around the screen in the shape that the QWERTY layout would suggest. And I do understand that's very much a more difficult thing to explain. I hope that you heard me do it, heard me explain how I do it, and are encouraged to have a try yourself if you've not done it before. VoiceOver settings has a typing section, and in here the options include typing style, which is what you saw on some previous videos where you can choose the 3 types of typing. The phonetic feedback option determines what you hear, so whether you hear A or B, or A then alpha and B then bravo, etc. And typing feedback, there's a whole series of toggles in here for whether you hear characters, words, both, or nothing. And you can also choose when you hear them. So do you want to hear letters as they are inserted when you're typing on a touchscreen, for example, but perhaps not if you're using a Bluetooth hardware keyboard. So there's that. And finally, in this section of settings, there is the keyboard interaction time. That is the slide to type thing, which determines whether when slide to type is activated, and also if you have options on for other characters, for example, accented letters, how long they take to appear. So I found that 1 second was a bit too long for my liking, and 0.6 was quite a good compromise. So it was quick enough for me to find the letter, but short enough I could type longer things using slide to type without being unduly delayed. Now that is it, as I said, for the on-screen keyboard, but of course there are plenty of other options, and I'm not going to cover Bluetooth keyboards or braille displays with any great immediacy in these videos, because I'm trying to get the phone itself working well for people without needing extra equipment. But of course it's worth mentioning that both Bluetooth keyboards and braille displays have buttons on them, which you can press and enter text and data. Bluetooth keyboards come in all sorts of sizes and configurations. You can get ones that look like desktop keyboards. You can get ones that fold up. I've even got one that is a rubber keyboard and that rolls into a cylindrical tube when not being used. So they all come in all sorts of sizes and styles and battery lives and whatnot. And if you do use a Bluetooth keyboard, then you tend to do much less typing on the screen. Similarly, most braille displays have a braille keyboard, and if you're a brailleist, then obviously you get both input and output with your extra device using that. But these set of 3 videos have covered the methods by which you can use the same keyboard as sighted people, just in a slightly different way. So whereas they might just touch the letter, as with direct touch typing, you could choose to double tap it, as with standard, or lift your finger off it, as with touch typing. Slide to type is available for both sighted and VoiceOver users. It's a feature that works for both. Obviously the difference being that when you're sliding your finger around the screen and you can see the word you're trying to type come up rather than being spoken aloud by VoiceOver. And that is one of the downsides of slide to type that I mentioned earlier, is that VoiceOver is very chatty. But of course, it's all about choice and variety, and what works for one person doesn't work for something else. So I hope you found these 3 set of linked videos useful in giving you the options. We are going to move on to some more esoteric input methods that the iPhone has, including things like handwriting and braille screen input in subsequent videos. So don't think we're done, not by a long shot. But these 3 are all linked together and form the methods by which you can use the same keyboard as your sighted counterparts, and are certainly the ones you should understand, even if you don't use them all the time, because of course we live in a very sighted world, and it's worth knowing how the people use technology as well as ourselves. So thank you for watching and listening. Hopefully you've learned something new or found something interesting, and I've enjoyed myself. And remember that you can always come back and replay these if there's anything that you didn't quite get. And I can only apologise if I didn't explain something clearly enough. Sometimes it's very hard to explain concepts like drawing shapes of words when, if you don't know a keyboard layout, of course you're really stuck using any of these methods. But there are other options, as we'll come to in later videos. So don't despair, there may be something for you later on.